A couple of months ago, I was privileged to have some guests on our show, and they were from the Foster Parents Advocacy Foundation, a company that's located in Harlem. It was a very compelling interview, and so we realized that it was impossible for us to capture all of the nuances in one show. So we agreed at the last show that we would come back again, and here we are. The reason that I asked them to come back is because we were talking about our young people in the foster care agencies who are aging out and what happens to them. I'll have to say that the report was not good. Our young people who are in these agencies are coming out, and there's really nothing waiting for them except for an agency like FPA. However, I explained to my guests that of course we understand and we can empathize with this situation, but no one could really tell the story like someone who was actually a victim of this whole system. And I asked them if they would come back and bring a young person with them who could articulate these emotions. And we were very lucky. They brought a young brother here today that's going to speak to you about what his experiences were in that system. So I'd like very much to introduce to you Cory. How are you, Cory?
I'm good.
Yes, you are. And I'd also like to say that he has his advocate with him, and right now his shield, because he's a little nervous, but I believe that he's going to represent the agency very well, and I'd like to say hi to you again, Sylvia Hooper.
Hello.
Hey,
Thank you for having me back.
I'm so glad you all are back. We have a lot of information, and because of that, I am not going to belabor the issue by a lot of dialogue. I really want to showcase Cory and talk about some of the things that he's experienced. So, Cory, I'd like for you to discuss with us, what was the foster care experience like for you, dear?
Well, for me, it was very hard at times because, like, going into foster care, it was hard, like, being without my mother for a day or so. But, like, later on when I got older, it became more and more difficult. I noticed that the agency stopped paying attention to me a lot. Like, I changed a lot of caseworkers, and then, like, the caseworkers I did have would basically, like, ignore. Like, I would be in situations and I would ask them or try to ask them to see if they get me out of the situation with the foster parent.
Yes.
And sometimes they wouldn't really be able to help me. They would sometimes say, like, I have to deal with it, or just try to ignore it and do what I have to do. So it was very difficult at first, and then and then as I started getting older, I started getting more knowledge about it, and I noticed that they're not going to help me. So I figured that I got to help myself and put myself forward and try to do what I have to do and everything. Yes. So yes.
I imagine that experience probably was frustrating, but most importantly, at a young age, as you were saying, it's probably very frightening.
Yes.
You know, because as I'm listening to you speak now, I'm trying to imagine what it would be like to be a small child and to be separated from my parents and thrown into a situation where you really don't know anyone, and the people that are there, you don't know whether or not they're there actually for you. How long were you in the system, dear?
I was in the system, as of now, I'm in the system for 10 years.
10 years.
Yes.
And how old are you now?
I'm 19 now.
Yes, yes, very good. I'm glad that you're here with us today. You know, this is like a bittersweet kind of interview, right? Because, you know, the mother in me wants to just run over there and just hug you and say, it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right. But it is going to be all right, because I can tell by the way you posture yourself and your ability to articulate what it is that you went through, that you already got a leg up, and that you're going to be able to provide an example for other men and women, young men and women, yes, who's in this system. And again, I need to thank you for coming here, because you do represent a whole bunch of people. I've been reading statistics and reports from FPA, and this is a big, big problem. Did you feel you had someone that you could voice your opinions to once you became involved with FPA?
Yes, I did. Like Miss Sylvia, she was in my school. She was with the Henry Street, and then when I came to her for help, like she would talk to me, give me advice and everything. Then after that, then I went to FPA. Like, I guess after I graduated.
Yes.
And then they helped me more and more there. They helped me get a job. they help me with my caseworker. My caseworker never really listens to me, so now that they're there to speak for me, my caseworker now knows that this is serious now. So,
yes.
So now that I have them on my side, like I feel like there's people here to help me now.
Yeah, that's important. You know, I think that's in any system. When you're in the hospital, if people don't come to visit you, the treatment is different.
Mm-hmm,
you understand
absolutely.
me? If you're in a nursing home and no one comes to visit you, treatment is different. You're in the foster care agency and they don't think that there's no one there to speak for you, then you kind of get pushed to the side. But you do have Miss Sylvia. I had a conversation with Miss Sylvia the last time she was here. I know she can speak up. She don't have any problem speaking up. And I'd like to bring Sylvia in on the conversation now. When we talked the last time, we of course talked a lot about the problems that were inherent in this system. And I think that we did pretty well explaining how the children are neglected. And also there's another side to that coin, because the parents who are foster parents and who want to do the right thing, they're not getting any services either. So I think we laid out the situation pretty well. And my concern going forward is that we not spend a lot of time on what's negative, because I think everybody's clear. What's more important is, what is FPA doing to address these situations? And I remember talking to your partner, Doran, and I said, look, I need to know what you all are doing, you know, because we can't talk about a lot of negative stuff. We have to be more positive so that we can have inspiration for other people who might need to know what you're doing, because I will reiterate, I live a few blocks from you guys. I didn't even know you were there. And I think that might be a general problem. And I want to clear that up right away. I want you to tell them where you're located and the hours that you operate and the services that you provide.
So that's our new location. We're on 332 West 141st Street between St. Nicholas and Edgecombs.
Okay.
We're open Monday through Friday. Sometimes Saturday we're there as well, having Foster Parent Action Committee meetings. We're open from 10 to 6, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 11 to 7, and Friday from 9 to 5. But like I said, we're there many hours after that. So if a foster parent or youth needs to come after hours, they can come. We never turn anyone away. The services that we provide are success stories.
Yes.
We want to make sure that youths have a voice, that they have an advocate, that they feel like they're not alone, that they feel that their voice is being heard, that they're being respected. We want to make sure that the agencies are held accountable and provide the services that are written on paper, that are within the manuals, within the guidelines.
Yes.
We want to make sure that that's happening.
Yes.
So, you know, we want to have these success stories. We want to continue to have the success stories. We have many of them. And it's challenging, though, because we face more often than not agencies that really don't want to work with us, and we're trying to work with them to create a better situation for the families we work with. And I would feel that as social workers, as professionals, this would be the mantra of everyone that works within the child welfare system.
Before we talk about the individual services that you provide, I remember from our first interview, your agency really was created to help foster parents, and it's sort of morphed into this helping the young people out, because there were so many people, that young folks like Cory, that needed some help, right?
Well, the name of our organization is Foster Parent Advocacy, but really our first and primemost concern is the youth that's in the home. So the foster parents really are foot in the door to get to the youth, because we want to, yes, support good foster parents, but we want to make sure that the youth that's in their home is really thriving and being successful. And at the end of the day, when they age out, they're not aging out to homelessness and crime and poverty. We want to make sure that they're moving on to go to college or to obtain their own apartment and to be able to live independently and responsibly.
Cory, you've aged out, right?
No, not yet.
When will you age out?
21.
At 21.
Yes.
And what will be waiting for you when you age out?
Well, as of now, I have a job right now. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. And right about now, like, my caseworker, she hasn't really talked to me about it. So that's another thing that's a problem. Like, we haven't gone over what's going to happen when I age out, which will be next year.
Yes.
So, like, that's why the FPA is helping me to help me step, like, being ready for when I age out, even though the agency is supposed to do so. They're there for me to provide me with help and everything. So.
Yes. So now tell me, Sylvia, when our young people age out of the foster care system, What's the story with housing? What's the story with education? Will they already have a high school diploma or a GED?
You would hope so, but
Yeah,
more
tell me.
often than not, the kids are not provided with any of this. You know, once they age out, they tell them, well, okay, you know, you're aged out now, you're an adult. It's your responsibility to find an apartment. It's your responsibility to get yourself into college when, you know, without a supportive adult, where is the youth going to turn? They don't even know where to start, you know, from A to Z. So, you know, something as simple as opening a bank account or filling out a FAFSA form, they don't have the clue, you know, the first clue to know, where do I start? Where do I go? Who do I ask? You know, they don't have that because no one's guided them through that path. So that's where there's a disservice there, because the kids aren't provided this service. They're supposed to be receiving independent living skills, and throughout that process, they will be obtaining assistance with finding an apartment and learning how to cook and clean for themselves, open up a bank account. But more often than not, they're watching videos and movies and having, you know, a social party more than really getting to the nitty gritty, because once these kids age out, that's it. They can't go back to the agency and say, listen, I need help, or I didn't find that apartment that was written down on the paper that I was supposed to, or that job didn't fall through, or I lost that job. The person that you told me to go to wasn't there, you know, so they can't do that. You know, and that's really a disservice. And that's where we come in, because when we hear about these youths, when they come to our door, we're going to hold them, we're going to cradle them, and we're going to make sure from step 1 to step 10 that they're going to have the answers that they need and they're going to have the guidance. We're going to make sure that once they leave our doors, they're equipped the way that they should be, so they can compete with the world.
So this problem is staggering. I was reading some of the notes that my producer provided for me. The numbers are astronomical in terms of how many youth every year are turned out. I mean, literally just turned out. Today's your birthday, happy birthday, get out. You know, that is like the cruelest thing I've ever heard. And I know that it's hard for the brothers, but the sisters, I would have to think that young ladies coming out of that system, it's got to be unbelievable for them, because they're prey to just any and everybody.
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
there's a lot of instances of pregnancy.
I was going to say that, yeah, particularly if you have a young teenage mom. You know, now they're not only responsible for themselves, they're responsible for this child now. So in terms of having insurance for this child, daycare, if the young youth is working or going to college, who's going to help them set this up? You know, and then more often than not, they have to go into the shelter system or rely on public assistance. And these are the things that they're encouraged to do, because it's a generational thing where, you know, people within the foster care system think that, well, this is how it should be. You know, this is all that you're capable of. And that's not true.
So would it be extreme and an extreme thing for me to say that it's profitable for the agencies not to help these young people, because they have them in the foster care system, they're not providing the services that they need to, like for Cory, and then it perpetuates continuously, because now they may become part of the HRA system. Yes. And it just systemized, where there could have been some intervention.
It's a revolving door.
Yes. There could have been some intervention there, like family unification, providing the proper services, giving them the right direction, sending them to the right place if they don't have the services, where to go for the services. Actually linking up with other agencies like FPA that would help them provide the young people with the things that they need. This is criminal to me.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's disheartening, you know, working in this field and seeing this on a day-to-day basis. We went to a meeting with Cory recently, and we had to advocate to get him out of a very inappropriate home. And the foster parent had worked with ACS, and she thought that she was really providing gold for him, you know, really paving the path. And the